Well, the resignation of the director of the CIA and one of America's most decorated military commanders, David Petraeus, has certainly dominated headlines as well as airtime in American press. But while his extramarital affair has been in the spotlight, the real cause for concern, it seems to be, are the ramifications for the country as a whole. Well, let's talk more about this with James Corbett. He's the editor of the Corbett Report and joins us live from Japan. Sir, thank you for being with us. Of course, decisions made by the CIA certainly resonate all across the globe. What are the implications of Petraeus' resignation, you think, for the U.S.?
Well, it's a good question, and one that hasn't been asked enough in this scandal. If the old adage is true that nothing in politics happens by accident, then I think that's nowhere more true than it is when it comes to these political sex scandals, as we've seen over the years. For example, with the Deborah Jean Palfrey D.C. Madam case, where her client list was covered up by her murder or suicide, depending on which side of that debate you come down on, or Elliot Spitzer penning an editorial in the Washington Post and exposing the subprime mortgage crisis, and then being caught up in his own sex scandal literally just hours later after a leak of FBI wiretap information to the New York Times. So the question has to be why this scandal is emerging now. Why is it embroiling General Petraeus, and what information did he have that would potentially have been interesting to the people who would have been interested in bringing him down? And this actually, we can start to see some of the pieces of this puzzle emerging as it becomes clear now that that there is the indication that he will not be testifying in upcoming congressional hearings into what happened in Benghazi in September. And because of that, some key information about what happened in Benghazi might not come to light, including some interesting information that just emerged in recently that, in fact, last month, General Petraeus' alleged mistress, this Broadwell, was going around giving speeches about how the CIA annex in Benghazi was being used as a secret prison, which is why it was attacked in September. So there are some very, very big things that are emerging right now, and it looks like the operation to take down Petraeus at this particular moment might be motivated by some of those backdoor political dealings rather than the sex scandal that it's supposedly made out to be.
And I'm just curious, you say this operation to remove Petraeus. Who do you think is behind this? Do you blame the Obama administration, or are there other forces at hand here?
I think it would be too early to speculate on that, and again, it depends how the events play out to see whether or not there will be more information coming out on that. Again, it depends. For example, if he does end up testifying at the Benghazi hearings, it also depends, for example, who is ultimately selected to replace him. And there are some interesting characters in the running for that. John Brennan's name has been thrown around, and he was the CEO of a company called Analysis Inc. back in 2008, when one of the contractors, one of the people working for Analysis Inc. was a contractor for the State Department who accessed President Obama's passport records illegally, and then one of the key witnesses in that case ended up being murdered in cold blood in that case, who got covered up entirely. So there are some interesting connections around some of the people who may be slotted to replace Petraeus.
Okay. Well, of course, Petraeus has made his name for the counterinsurgency strategy in both Iraq and Afghanistan, and I really want to focus on Afghanistan here because, of course, the war, even though it's supposed to be ramping up, is really not. We're seeing casualties all the time there. The situation on the ground is not getting better at all. I'm in fact flying there this evening myself. What do you think this scandal, will this scandal in any way affect the situation there, and are there any implications for Afghanistan?
I don't think there are any immediate ramifications for this because of Petraeus' role as CIA director for the last year and a half. I think that's sort of overshadowed his role there in Afghanistan. But certainly the question of what's going to happen in 2014, whether the ISAF will pull out of Afghanistan as scheduled or not, is still very much up in the air. And again, I don't think that that's really going to come to a conclusion anytime soon. And I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be affected by Petraeus' resignation, although certainly the CIA and its implications in the drone strikes in Pakistan play a very key role in what's happening with the entire Afghanistan security situation. So we'll see if a change in leadership at CIA provokes any change whatsoever in the CIA drone strikes.
And of course, Petraeus was credited with expanding the drone strike program in Yemen as well. James Corbett, the editor of an independent website, the Corbett Report. Thank you so much.